How's it going, guys? This is week 12. We're in week 12, Ryan, right? Cool. Week 12 of Slate of Mind podcast, the podcast where we break down game theory and roster construction and how you can play the best plays while being different than the field. The weekly show that Ryan and I started this year. How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. How'd you do last week?
It was a down week for me. I lost about 50% of my entries, and the entry that placed well and performed well was Jacoby Brissett stack. So it was really frustrating when at the end of the game they're just garbage time touchdowns, and I'm just holding hands with 20, 30% of the field or more. Um, which is why playing the chalk often kind of, playing the chalk stack and not having leverage during that. I mean, I had other parts of my lineup that had leverage. Obviously, I don't build a lineup that isn't viable, doesn't have win equity. But yeah, I mean, the stack just smashed, and if you didn't have it, you were chalked. I did have Bijan in that lineup, so it performed pretty well, but just enough to recoup 50%. Wasn't really a winning week for me. How about you?
I got absolutely smacked. So I did recoup about a third of my entries.
Yeah.
But I won $35 in early only and $20 in
hmm
afternoon only, and I didn't cash a single main slate lineup, which is insane actually because we didn't do the show because I had a personal thing come up last week. But I got a lot
Yeah.
right last week actually. I was on a lot of the things that worked. It just wasn't my week in anything else.
Yeah. What were some of the things that went how you were anticipating? What
Yeah,
were some
well,
of the
I
good
had
calls you
Bijan
had?
Robinson as the top play on the slate. I don't think that a lot of people
Yes, you
did
did. I
that.
think you had 30% or so and talked me into some more.
Yeah, like I thought Bijan was like legitimately the best play on the slate. I felt that the cheap stacks were the best way to go. So like I had a lot of Houston.
Yep.
Davis Mills had 17 points. That looked good. Nico Collins hit for 24. Um,
hmm
Bijan Robinson had 33. So like I kind of went like cheap wide receiver, cheap quarterback, expensive running back. So like the build was like kind of the right build. So on
hmm
on a week where I felt like I got a lot right, I feel like I probably should have made more money than I did. But unfortunately, I didn't get enough right because I also went kind of like expensive wide receiver. I had like a lot of JSN last week who like didn't really get there. A good bit of James Cook who like didn't really get there. My
hmm
tight ends like kind of missed. So it was like right build, wrong players.
Yeah, that's true. And I think, Tribe and Jason were talking about it on the bakery, and they have been. Shout out to those guys. They've been identifying and through some of the slate recaps that they do too. A lot of the cheaper quarterbacks and stacks have been the winning lineups, have been outperforming. I don't know how that rates against previous years, but it's definitely been a trend this year.
Well, I think if you had Josh Allen, you just like won automatically last week. I definitely didn't have any Josh Allen. He scored
Naked Josh
50
Allen, of
points.
course.
So,
Yeah.
like I said, Josh Allen's just infuriating because he never brings anybody with him. It's like you can
Yeah,
bring
well,
naked Josh Allen, like that's great, but like have fun getting the rest of your 8 spots right.
Josh Allen wasn't in the winning Millie lineup. It was Brissett.
Probably because nobody knew who they're
So
playing with.
yeah, I mean it's same problem. Each week when you face when you're looking at playing Josh Allen, he could go Superman mode and just run in 3 touchdowns. But then you have to get 8 other things right, like you said. And you and I like to make a couple. We're making a couple bets on game environments, teams performing, trailing game states. We don't want to have to get 8 different things right. We're not building an 8 leg parlay. We're building 3 sets of correlated outcomes.
Yeah, my best lineups
Just
this year have
simplify it.
actually been QB +2+2. I've like came really close to first place finishes. I think 3 times with like overstacking one game.
Yeah. No, it's performed well, and a lot of my lineups last week were attacking games. So you had a great You had some great concepts about how we could attack the Pittsburgh Cincy game. I mean, obviously the run out, the fantasy production wasn't there, but I thought that was a really unique way to still access Warren and Metcalf and Chase. Um, so we can carry that into this week. I think the takeaways from that, I mean, each slate is different, but you want to look at within the context of the slate, pricing, what the lineups allow you to do, and which game environments you want to attack.
Yeah, I also just remember the other thing I did is I faded all the low and chalk or the chalk running backs. That was like the other thing I got right. I feel like I faded a lot of the bad chalk. Um, so like I said, it's just one of those weeks, man, where like it goes to show you that getting it right is really only half the battle. You also need luck and variance.
Yeah, you need to put yourself in position and you need to run. You need to run well, and that's part of it. If you're new to DFS, which I imagine a lot of the people that listen to this aren't, you guys, you know the pain. Um, you're there with us, and many slates were just close but no cigar, or uh, not close at all, and watching Jacoby Brissett march up and down the field. You and I had talked about separately. Obviously, we didn't have the show last week, but um, the Steelers running back Warren, what's his name?
Jalen Warren.
Jalen Warren. Sorry, we talked about him being the worst chalk on the slate, and we had him in one lineup each,
Yeah.
from what I remember. And if ownership holds this week, I see another one. That's a little bit of a teaser into what's to come, but just reflecting on the state, yeah, 6K running backs and weak offenses with mediocre workloads is a great place to get different.
Yeah, I mean, we can go ahead and lead right into that. We talked before we got in here kind of about some of the spots and what they're looking like, and you said you had some stuff that you were looking at. And so, what's kind of like your priorities this week? I know it's early, and these can obviously change because this is a Wednesday show for anybody that doesn't know. So, we
Yeah,
talk
we're
pretty
doing this early.
about like what this stuff looks like. But how are you feeling right now?
I like it. I think this is going to be fun. The first thing I notice from a macro standpoint, different from last week. We have several games here with totals in the 50s. We have New England and Cincinnati. We have the Giants and Detroit, KC and Indy, and then Tampa and the Rams are right there at the top. I'm not sure if they're in the main slate or not.
They're not. We don't have that game.
Okay. Okay, I didn't think so. Philly and Dallas are right there at 49, at least the open. That's been knocked down a little bit. So I think we're going to see a higher scoring week. I also think we have some obvious value. Some of it's good. I think some of it's a little bit fragile. Um, so just from a macro standpoint, I think we're looking at a higher week. And I was like, okay, Cincinnati and New England, Detroit and the Giants, definitely some game environments I'm going to target, but I'm going to try and do it a little bit different from the field. I think I already see how some of this is shaping up. I think some's going to depend on Joe Burrow. I don't know if you saw his window is now open to come off the IR, and I'm going to do a little bit of looking here while we're on the show. But yeah, Jamar Chase being out is like an important part of the slate too, because T. Higgins is 7K and Yoshi Voss is going to be super chalk at 4,100.
Yeah, it's actually so really interesting. So I've talked a lot about. I think a lot of people this year have played. We've got starts and scrubs when we've had like really good value, but like on
Yeah.
any week where we don't have good value, people have went like balance build a lot. But
Mm-hmm.
like this week, I kind of feel like they're gonna think that we've got some really good value. But here's the thing. Well, I mean, it depends, right? I think balance builds are going to be like a really good thing this week. There's like a lot of mid-price players that I actually really like, where I don't think we have as many stars and studs that we like need to pay up for. But then I also think there's
Mm-hmm.
a couple of really interesting, really cheap players that I don't know if they're going to get steamed as much. It's like last week I was really on Jaden Higgins for Houston. It kind of worked out. He had like 10 points or something. Like nothing. It wasn't terrible for 3K. Like probably it could
Yeah.
have won you that particular week. It's not going to win you most weeks, but last week sucked. So like. I think as long as you also had Nico Collins, you probably would have been okay. But like I think there's a couple of really cheap wide receivers and really cheap players that I'm like, kind of excited to talk about today that I'm definitely
Mm-hmm.
willing to play if people aren't going to go to stars and scrubs this week.
I think it's going to be Stars and Scrubs week. So if you want to, just from a conceptual standpoint, look at some avenues that we may go to mid-price builds. I think that's
If
in
it's
the
a Stars
spirit
and
of what
Scrubs
Slate
week,
of Mind is.
mid-price builds are going to
Yeah.
be awesome. I think that like all of my standout plays this week are mid-tier players. I think the most expensive one is like 8K.
Yeah. I think I'm excited to see it. And maybe if we have time, I don't know how you feel about building on the show, but maybe we
Yeah,
could
yeah, we can do a
demonstrate a
build.
little
I
bit.
actually built a
Yeah.
practice build that I think I'm definitely going to run in a single entry this week, so like I can even talk
Okay.
through that build. I think a little bit.
Okay.
Cool. So as far as let's start off, we'll just start off wide. What are some of your like favorite like games and spot stacks that you're kind of like looking at this week that you like think you could have interest in?
Yeah, so we're talking stacks, right? You
Yeah.
want me to start with stacks? Okay. So it's hard to gauge ownership. Do you have a sense? I mean, I'm going to be a little bit ownership agnostic because the QB ownership on Paydirt is a little bit flat. Now I'm curious if Brissett is going to be chalk again this week. Um, okay, so ownership agnostic, and I am interested in the Cardinals. I'm interested in the Giants. I'm interested in the Lions. I'm interested in the Seahawks. I'm a little bit interested in the Bengals. Yeah, I'm interested in the Bengals, but I also think that's potential chalk. Well, maybe not after last week. If Flacco starts at 5,500, actually, he's probably not going to garner much ownership. So, um, Bengals, Seahawks, Cardinals, Giants, Lions, and I do have to look a little bit, but on the top end. But that's kind of where I'm at. I'm definitely low end QBs this week is where I'm at right now.
Cool. So that makes me feel really good because you didn't name either of my two favorite spots, which means I hope that no one is looking at them. I do
Okay.
like Arizona, to be fair. I think Brissett and McBride is really good. I especially like it with if ETN plays and you get ETN on the other side.
That's
I think that's really
I wanted to
interesting.
discuss that. I do want to discuss the Jacksonville running backs too
Yeah, I
because I
will
think
say
that's
I would guess that's the chalkiest spot on the slate. Brissett and
I think
McBride
I
just
think
hit together so many times without, McBride's gotten a bump, but Brissett really hasn't. It's like you can still play
yeah.
the two of them for like 12K, and at that price, they've literally hit every single week since they've like started together. And so like I see no
Hmm.
possible way that they're not a chalky pair. Um,
Even at 6,800, wow, McBride is getting priced up.
yeah,
But he's
but I
his
mean, if you
his
compare him to a lot
production
of
is
the receivers at
justified it.
6,800 with what he's done at Brissett, like it's still a good play, which is like pretty
Yeah.
insane.
Hmm.
Um, so my favorite spot on the slate is Philly. I have a lot of interest in Philly this week. I think that's like I think people have forgotten because we haven't had Dallas in so long, like what they can look like when they score. I think like that's a really cool game. I think that Devonta Smith has been very good. He's like 5,600. He's gotten just as many targets as AJ Brown has. AJ Brown is also like 6K. So like now with like Goddard's like in the fives, all of that's really cheap and like easy to play. It was hard when AJ Brown was 8K and Jalen Hurts was 8K and Saquon Barkley was 10K. But it's like kind of a cheap stack. Dallas's defense is terrible and absolutely horrendous. Their offense scores a lot of points. And so like I really like the idea of Philadelphia doubles this week.
Well, it's going to be cheap and it's not going to have much ownership. I I was thinking earlier about the Eagles. I'm an Eagles fan, by the way, so I am always interested in playing the Eagles. But bias aside, I have two things that I'm concerned about with that. The first is the Eagles' offensive efficiency is way down the past couple games. Their offense just it does not look good. They scored 10 points 2 weeks ago, I think, against Green Bay. They scored 16 the other night against the Lions. Their EPA numbers look terrible on offense right now, and Detroit was a good matchup passing wise with a
It's
couple.
not a Dallas matchup though. So like the problem is
Yeah, but
Dallas is
Dallas is not the same team.
Dallas
Dallas
is
acquired a couple defensive players, and they have a couple more back on defense.
Dallas has given up some of the most amount like I think like They are currently the third worst team, I believe, against wide receivers and quarterbacks.
Yeah, but that's on the season long.
No, it's not. It's in the last 3 weeks, which is where I run all of my numbers from.
Last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And did that include their changes at the trade deadline?
I mean, that includes the last 3 weeks. So they have given up 746 passing yards, 7 passing touchdowns, and also on top of that, 16 rushing yards and another rushing touchdown. And now they're getting Jalen Hurts, who is going to run and is going to score. Their cornerbacks are absolutely horrendous. Let's see, wide receiver-wise, we're looking at, in the last 4 weeks, 30 catches, 452 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So pretty bad. They're pretty bad. And we've seen Philly even out of sorts this year. They might have not been good the last 2 weeks, but they've also had 38-point games, 28-point games. They've put up 33 against the Rams. And so we've seen them enter shootouts. Neither of the last 2 weeks, they were shootouts. The other team didn't score points either. So we never saw Philly open up the offense. But every time we've seen Philly open up the offense, we've actually seen really good things from them. And so, this to me is a bet if you think that Dallas can score points or not.
Yeah. They did try and open up their offense. They had more first down passing in the Lions game. They were trying to get the passing game going right from the jump, but were having very limited success converting. I think you're coming across the intersection of nut matchup, struggling offense. You're saying, I think the nut matchup here is going to get right for a team that's had a historically great offense at times. I think that's a good bet to make. I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm just saying this is the part where it's, you have to make some decisions, and I think you can attack that game environment pretty cheap from what you were saying. I assume you want some Dallas.
George Pickens is still 6,900.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you wanted to attack it from the Dallas side. Do you think Pickens run back?
I like all three. I think you could run Pickens. I think you could run Javonte Williams. I also think you could run CeeDee Lamb. I like Pickens personally because, this is just a thing that I do a lot, but I like a receiver like CeeDee Lamb takes volume a lot. And so I typically like to play CeeDee Lamb with Dak. But when you're playing a one-off or a run back, I like the big play guy a lot because they can kind of change how a game works. It's if George Pickens catches a 40-yard touchdown, then all of a sudden your stack's coming back out, and it's just big chunk plays. And so Pickens would probably be my ideal. But I also think it's been a while since we've seen a good Javonte Williams game, and Philly's secondaries became pretty good towards the last couple of weeks, but they've been kind of susceptible to run still. And so it could be a 30 carry Javonte Williams game, kind of low key.
Mm-hmm. What's Williams priced at? Did they bring him down a little bit this week?
I think he's been slowly coming back down. He is now at 6,500.
Okay.
Which is cheaper than Jalen Warren.
Jalen Warren, the people's champ.
Yeah, so I think it's just a really interesting spot. It's when I look at matchups, which I'm a big matchup guy, so I use the color code indicator and everything. The only spot that has 3 greens is Philly on this whole slate. That's
why
wide receiver, tight end.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I'll have to get some thought, and I'm not trying to just play devil's advocate. I just didn't. I thought about this earlier. I was thinking about that game. Phillies had the best pass defense the past couple of weeks, but you're right. It's mid-range to running backs. And if either team is forced into a passing, a shootout environment, then perhaps that opens up a little bit. I also
don't think that Philly in the last 2 weeks have seen the receiver duo that's the same as George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. I know Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams are good, but George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb were both legitimately alpha wide receiver ones. And so I actually kind of think it's probably pick your poison, and one of them could go off. I don't know if both will, to be fair. It's you might spend 7-8K and get a dud. It's probably having the right one of those is important. But Dallas just has so many weapons. I mean, they still have Ferguson that we didn't even talk about, and like, so I think
Didn't
like
he
just
score like 2 touchdowns too?
yeah, so like just the way that they have so many weapons and everything, I think even on good defenses, that Dallas can like really stress teams.
I'm just going to add a couple other points, things that I was thinking about for this game. The total's down 2 points from the open, so there's definitely some market support for the Eagles not being efficient on offense. The other factor I'm concerned about is Cam Jurgens, the center for the Eagles, and Lane Johnson. I'm going to pull the practice report, but both of them left the game on Sunday with injuries, so
I'm gonna kind
that
of
might weaken
push
their.
back on that. I think it's a good thing, man. I think it means Jalen Hurts will run more.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good point. And they actually had some designed runs for him against the Lions, which is good to see, and I think that obviously adds to his potential upside as well.
And Devonta Smith, by the way, has been like kind of a monster this year. He's 5,600. Like I said, this is kind of like I'm gonna have a lot of Devonta Smith no matter what I end up doing. Um, so like when you look at Devonta Smith here, he's had games of 23, 36, 15, 17. He's also in the last couple of weeks he's at 5 targets, 7 targets, 9 targets, 11 targets, and 10 targets. It's like at 5,600 and like a pretty good matchup. I just think like it's just such a good spot.
And part of the dynamic too with him is that they were force feeding AJ Brown against the Lions because AJ Brown was coming out in the media like continually expressing his frustration about his role in the offense. So we could see that counterbalance a little bit this week where they're just feeding. I mean, that's a little narrative based, but it really was a thing. You could see very clearly they were forcing the ball to AJ Brown. So I think it's something I got to think about a little bit more. But I like that shout. Where else were you thinking
I was gonna
about?
say you're really gonna hate my next one then if you didn't like that because
Okay, tell me the next
the
one.
spot that I
I'll
think
keep.
I have a lot of interest in because I think that
Yeah.
the receiver that comes with it is one of the best plays on the slate, and you're getting the quarterback so cheaply. Is Pittsburgh?
Okay.
Um,
Oh, I no, I like Pittsburgh.
yeah, I think so.
If
Like,
Mason Rudolph plays.
yeah, I want Rudolph. I don't want Rodgers. This is if
Yeah.
Rodgers plays, then like Metcalf's not one of the best plays on the slate anymore. If you go back and you watch Pittsburgh's offense frequently, something that you'll notice is that DK Metcalf is actually open a lot, but because he works down the field more and Rodgers throws the ball in point 0.2 seconds, he just never gets to him. And so, like, I actually think that if we dumb down the quarterback play a little bit, where like Mason Rudolph's gonna like run around and stuff a little bit, I think that we could see like a big DK Metcalf game, and then like just having that DK
Yeah.
Metcalf game and pairing him with the ugly quarterback that nobody's gonna want. I think just kind of like makes a lot of sense, and also kind of pits us against like the Brissett McBride thing, which like you could still play McBride, right? So like you don't have to even like say like Metcalf's a better play than McBride. It just has to be there for the price that Mason Rudolph can keep up with Jacoby Brissett. And so like I think it's just kind of like an interesting pivot from that point.
Did you take a look at the model for route-based heroes today too?
Yes, is he up there? I did it very fast.
Top 5 players include both Devontae Smith and DK Metcalf.
I did know Devonta Smith was up there because he was first.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of to my point. Like they were force feeding AJ Brown. Smith was open. I think we might see that regress a little bit, and he gets more work this game.
Yeah, so that's kind of like my two like stacks. There's like other places that I think are interesting, but they're kind of like trail bets and environment bets more than anything else. It's like I think Indianapolis stacks are interesting this week. Again, because I think Kansas City can score points. I think we haven't seen like a true Alec Pierce or Tyler Warren breakout game, and like we're eventually going to get one. For reference, all these matches, it's a triple yellow, which is like I'm okay playing yellow spots if they're low owned. I just try to avoid them if they're high owned. I won't touch red spots. I just don't play them. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So, like, if people are playing Jonathan Taylor, who's red, by the way, one of the worst matchups on the entire slate.
Worst matchup, and he's 10K.
Yeah.
He's
Then,
not
like,
gonna
I
be
think,
on
like, even if I don't get to those stacks, I really like the idea of playing Alec Pierce and Tyler Warren this week.
Yeah. How's the matchup? The passing matchup is like a mid range, kind
Yeah,
of
they're
yellow on
okay.
your
They're
rating
not
scale.
terrible. They're not
Yeah.
great. They're fine. It's mostly a bet that like if Mahomes and them puts up points that like Daniel Jones is going to throw the ball a good bit, and I don't think that Kansas City's defense is like super elite that we should get bad Daniel Jones. So like I just think it's like kind of an interesting spot. It's not like a spot that I
Yeah,
love.
I do
It's
too.
interesting enough.
I mean, the game total, I don't know what it's sitting at now, but it was 52 on the research sheet. So I was like, huh, that's interesting. Like that game carries a pretty high total. I do not think Daniel Jones is going to carry much ownership. Um, so I think that's a good place to look. Just taking a look to see. Yeah, the total's 50.5 right now. Same. I mean, it's the same total as Cincinnati, New England. So yeah, I think that's an environment we want to target. It's a little bit hard from a pricing standpoint to access a lot of parts of that game. Um, so I need to think about how I would want to build out a lineup, when it comes to pricing. But I think targeting the Colts passing attack here would be a good spot to do that.
I actually don't think that it
Yeah.
is because I like Xavier Worthy as the run back
Really, why Worthy?
because he's only have one less target than Rice. He's way cheaper. He's faster. I told you I like to play those like big play receivers. I think we just barely missed a
Oh,
couple last week. But like
I saw him. Yeah.
I have them ranked Kelsey, Worthy, Rice. Kelsey's leading the team in targets in the last 3 weeks. He's had
Yeah,
a
he's
couple
been
of
getting a
nice
lot of work.
games. Something that people talk about a lot is they kind of thought they were saving Kelsey for like later in the season, and it kind of looks like that. He's been like kind of a focal point again. I think
Hmm.
Rashi Rice can get there, but it takes him like 12 to 14 targets. And so like Rice is
Hmm.
someone that I'd prefer to play with Mahomes instead of by himself at the current price that he's at. And so like I really like
Hmm.
the idea of playing like Daniel Jones, Alec Pierce, Tyler Warren, Xavier Worthy, which like as a four like isn't super expensive. And Kareem Hunt also has a good matchup, who's also cheap. So
Yes.
like it's one of those
He had
overstacks where
a
like
ton of snaps last week.
yeah, so like it's kind of like one of those overstacks where I think you could even put in Kareem Hunt and end up with
Hmm.
five really key pieces to the game without spending any of the big price tags.
I really like that. That's a sharp way to go about it. I Kareem Hunt had, I mean, Brashad Smith, I think the guy's name is.
Yep.
We were concerned about splitting that, but Kareem Hunt's getting. I'll pull up the numbers so I'm not just speaking without some
He's also still only
measure.
5,100.
He's 50. I thought he was 54. He's 5,100.
5,100.
Yeah, you just throw him in that with Jones, Pierce, Warren. Um, were these interesting? I was just going to mention to you because I was watching some of the Broncos and Chiefs game on Red Zone, and you just saw Mahomes like Worthy streaking down the sideline, running a go route. Mahomes chucking it up to him, and he definitely was getting deep targets. I'll pull up his air yards. So again, I'm
Yeah,
giving
apparently he's
something that's
questionable, and if he misses, I'm cool with Tyquan Thornton also. But I think what's interesting, and people have missed it because he hasn't had like a huge explosive game yet. But Worthy's had 5 targets, 7 targets, 7 targets, 4, 4, 9, and 8. And so like those are good. We just haven't seen a big game yet. And so like I said, it's not a bad matchup. I think that actually it is a bad matchup. It's not a great matchup, but it's just more of a bet on to me on the Kansas City offense.
which is a place that's been a great place to put our money over the years. And I think, targets are a leading indicator of fantasy production. And I think identifying that Worthy has been getting that target share is a really sharp way to consider how you can attack that game as well.
Yeah, like I said, I also really like Kelsey. I think Kelsey's in a really good spot, and like if no one's gonna play him, it's like you could probably play like Jones, Pierce, Pittman, Kelsey, and also get pretty good equity because Kelsey has 20 plus fantasy points in 2 out of 3 of his last games. He had 13 targets last week. He had 8 in the other 20-point game, and he also has one of the best tight end matchups on the entire slate. So Travis Kelsey.
Double tight end.
I don't know. Like I said, I actually feel like, especially if this gets popular in any way, that I'd rather fade Tyler Warren and play Travis Kelsey because I don't think most people would do that. I think if people play this game, they'll include Tyler Warren. And so, like, not a lot of people want to go to double tight ends. Like, if it blows up in any way, I think that's the easiest pivot to make. It's just to, like, play around Tyler Warren and play Travis Kelce instead.
Yeah. I don't think the Colt stack is going to garner much ownership.
I'm mostly
Jones
just
at
worried about Tyler Warren on his
6,200.
own, not the entire stack.
Oh, okay.
Like, I feel like Tyler
Okay.
Warren, like, consistently, they're, like, waiting for the breakout game. He's, like, way more expensive than he should be because he's, like, never had a big game, but he's, like, pretty consistently
Yeah.
okay.
He's had a high floor. He hasn't really hit a ceiling.
Yeah. So, like I said, I think Travis Kelce is, like, really interesting. And, by the way, he had 24 fantasy points while only getting to 91 yards. I mean, like, 9 more yards and he would have had his first 30 of the year. And
Yeah.
he's the one, two, three, four, the fifth most expensive tight end.
Before I move on, I just want to back up your Kareem Hunt play. Um, there was no other running back in Week 11 that he got 82% of the player snaps, 93% of the rushing attempts. So that's Kareem Hunt. I think a very solid play in that environment as well.
Yeah, I will say I have. So we've kind of talked through all those. I've got like just some of the plays that I like really like. That I'll talk through.
Okay.
They're kind of like one-off situations, but I actually had
Okay.
to get a new color out this week because we have a singular spot that's like so good that I felt like I needed to market in a different way, and so I have the first purple spot that I've ever had. That's like kind of like I deemed it an S tier spot. Do you have any idea what that might be? I'm curious.
What is it? A player that's in an S tier? S tier is like God tier, right?
Yeah, like this is a head and shoulder better spot than the rest of the players at this position. It's like when I looked at the points against, yeah, I'll tell you the
Well,
difference.
you might be thinking of the same player that I'm thinking of.
So, so the number one spot, they give up 41 fantasy points per game to this. The number two spot is 33 fantasy points per game. That's how big of a difference we're talking.
Okay, I don't know the spot. I was guessing it might have been the running backs versus Bengals
It is.
matchup.
It is. It's Trevion Henderson.
Treven Henderson,
Yeah.
6,700.
Yeah, and so like
Elite play.
I don't know how many people are going to play
Elite.
Trevion Henderson at 6,700. I don't care if he's chalky. I don't care if he's 50% owned. I'm going to play a ton of him. But this is something that's
He's
interesting
like
also is
50%.
that he averages 7 targets a game currently. And so like
Yeah.
we're going to wrap back around to this. You don't like this ever, but I think Drake May, Stephon Diggs, and Trevion Henderson, or even a 5-man stack of Flacco, Higgins, Trevion Henderson, Stephon Diggs. I think all of those things are really interesting.
I'm not going to fight you on that this week. It's the Bengals. I'm like in love with that play. I saw him at 6,700, and I'm like, I don't think people are going to play him here, and he's in the nut matchup. Um, I was wondering if people are like, what kind of ownership the Patriots passing game was going to get, and that I could get leverage off that. But I don't mind also just getting everything in that environment as well and targeting it.
There's also another really interesting player there that I don't know if people have realized that like how good he's been recently. And it's really funny because he's been playing pretty well and he's still 4K despite that. And that's Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins in the last 4 weeks has games of 5 targets, 10 targets, and 7 targets. And in that time, he's had 10, 20, and 16 fantasy points. He's 4,200. And so, like, I think just again, that's like a really interesting spot, kind of like Jaden Higgins, where like I don't think people realize how important he's been to this offense. He
Yeah.
also sees end zone targets, which like end zone targets are like the most like prized things that you can have for a wide receiver. And so, like, I think like it's totally I write down players of like how I prefer them, and I'd rather play Mac Hollins than Hunter Henry.
Well, Mac Hollins has more routes run. He has the same target percentage. The past 2 weeks, he's had a better target percentage. His average depth of target is higher. He's a great play,
Yeah,
and he's definitely going under the radar. I think that's a really unique way. Now, are you interested in playing May at all?
yeah,
Or just
yeah.
using?
I like
Okay.
Drake May as well. Like I said, so like I really like the idea of May, Henderson, and then
Henderson.
one of Diggs and Hollins. with Higgins
Okay.
coming back, because I think a lot of people will play Higgins with Flacco, but I don't know how many people are going to play New England stacks. I mean, they might get there, like I said, but then when they play New England stacks, how many of them are going to pair it with Henderson instead of Diggs? And so, like, I think that there's going to be a lot of pieces of this game that people want, but I don't think that they'll play them all together.
No, I don't think so either.
And then Mac Hollins, I
People
don't
aren't
think
gonna.
anybody will play at all. Like, I think if you're playing this game environment, you play Mac Hollins, it like gives you a really unique way that no one's playing it. By the way, all of those points that I just told you, the 20-point games and everything, Mac Hollins hit without scoring a single touchdown.
Yeah. He's gonna catch a touchdown this week. We're gonna look down. He's not gonna have any shoes on, and he is gonna. He. It's. I think it's another great way to identify the slate, David. I think you looking at the for people that are thinking about their own process, like seeing how David looks at expected fantasy points and like just future looking at what some of the distribution is going to be in the offense is a really sharp way to approach this.
Leading into that, I've got another weird cheat play that
Okay.
I like a little bit this week. I'm not sure that I'm in love with this one. It's not quite to the same confidence level as everything we've talked about.
Okay.
I like Isaiah Williams for the Jets with Tyrod Taylor playing. He is a flat. He's a flat 3K. You were just talking about the route based heroes and stuff. He's on there, by the way. So essentially, they're saying that he has been open, but Justin Fields is so terrible that nobody knows. And
No one
we
knows.
can't really talk about targets here because Justin Fields was throwing the ball 8 times a game. So like target number is really terrible. But he was getting essentially like 25% after Garrett Wilson got hurt of all the targets. And so like that means they like him and they're featuring him. And if Tyrod Taylor brings like a significant upgrade at 3K, I actually think that like we were talking about stars and scrubs. So like my 2 favorite scrubs on this slate are Mac Hollins and Isaiah Williams, which I think just like most people probably won't get to because they're slightly uncomfortable, even though the numbers are pretty good.
Okay. I don't know if the numbers for anything in the Jets offense is going to look
Well,
good.
I mean, it's Tyrod
but
Taylor though instead, right? So like Tyrod Taylor's
Ty God Taylor.
he's a serviceable
Ty
quarterback, right? So like at
He's a god.
3K, we're mostly just looking for serviceable. We don't need anything crazy. And so like Isaiah Williams in the last couple of
love
weeks
Tyrod.
has had 5 targets, 19 air yards. It's nothing great, but like his Whopper is like pretty good, 0.26, which is like that's essentially like how good at a certain depth of target that they get like a receiver actually is. That's not like amazing, but for a 3K player, it's like pretty okay. And yeah, if you actually just look at last week, which we didn't have any Garrett Wilson for the first time, you have Mitchell, who I also think is okay, who got 6 targets. John Mechie got 3, Mason Taylor got 4, Isaiah Williams got 4, and Jeremy Rucker got 5. And so, like, for a flat 3K, I don't think it's terrible. Now, like I said, I don't know that I would get to it in DFS. I think this might be more of like a touchdown bet or a parlay or something like that. But
Yeah.
if getting down to Isaiah Williams at 3K gets you like 2 or 3 stars, if he gets you 8 points, like that's technically like winnable. And so, like I said, I'm not going to like die on the hill that it's like a great DFS play or anything else, but I think it's really interesting. It's just like something extra that I picked up when I was looking at everything today.
Okay. I think there's a case for that. I think a Donnie Mitchell for 3,200 last week he had a 25% target share. His average depth of target was pretty high at 17. Now, the problem with the Donnie Mitchell is he can't catch the ball.
Yeah, he doesn't have any hands.
He's whoever in the Discord made the comparison to the kid in the Little Giants with the stickum. That was great. And watching Jason sweating the Jets secondary wide receivers catching touchdowns was pretty great on their show last week too. But I think if you're looking for value, you could do worse. Now, let's take it a step further. Are you interested in playing any Tyrod with him?
No, I think the matchups are terrible. I mean, like, it's a yellow matchup for receiver, but, like, quarterback, tight end, and running back are all some of the worst matchups on the slate, which is funny because we actually started taking advantage of that a while ago when we found out that Baltimore's defense was like healthy and getting better, and people were still targeting them. No, I don't want any Breece Hall. I don't want any Tyrod Taylor. I don't want any Mason Taylor. I really don't, like I said, I really don't want any Isaiah Williams either. It's just like not a good spot.
Yeah.
But what makes it more interesting for me with Isaiah
thin.
Williams and even Adonai Mitchell is that I have a lot of interest in Derrick Henry. And so, like, I like it as a secondary stack that, like, if Baltimore, like, crushes the Jets and Derrick Henry gets 30, 35 carries, and then that means that the Jets are throwing the ball a lot and you have your 3K receiver, that, like, I think it actually gets, like, kind of interesting as a secondary stack.
I love that. Ravens defense, Henry, and a cheap Jets wide receiver in a trailing game state. You get that correlation, very low owned. Let's take a look at the ownership and projection for Henry, because I haven't looked a ton at running backs yet, other than just some obvious spots.
Yeah, and I mean, by the way, the Jets have given up an average of 29 fantasy points a game to running backs.
Yeah, I was looking at their last 4 weeks. They're almost top 5 against running backs.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to account for some of their trades, like losing the Williams to the Cowboys. Okay, so he's 7,600. This would sort of support your mid-price build as well, going a little bit different from stars and scrubs. His ceiling's massive, and I think he's going to be pretty low owned. I don't know. I guess it's a little early to tell, but
I would assume he gets pushed over. I think because we have right around him Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. Because I didn't talk about Gibbs, but Gibbs is my other guy. So I told you I had like a couple of guys. Gibbs is the other one. I have Gibbs and Henry. I like both quite a lot. But I think that Henry should get like mostly passed over because he doesn't catch passes, and no one likes to play Henry unless he's really cheap.
Do you have any interest in Saquon this week?
I don't. Like I said, I like that passing game. I think it's a bad spot for the running backs, though, especially since Dallas got Quinn and Williams. They've been a lot better the last couple of weeks. So, like, I don't really
they're
need
more
to be Saquon.
They're more middle of the pack.
But, like, I'm pretty comfortable. Like, I think I'll have a lot of the passing game. Even when I don't have Jalen Hurts, I think they're all cheap enough to play as one-offs. Goddard, Smith, Brown, like, you can play all of them and rotate them out. And I feel, like, pretty good that somebody later have a good game. So, yeah, that's, like, kind of like, those are, like, the standout guys I, like, took notes of. The other ones we kind of talked about in passing. DK Metcalf is the other one. I, like, really, and Devonta, so, like, my list is Devonta Smith, Trey McBride, Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, Isaiah Williams, and DK Metcalf and Travion Henderson.
Yeah, those players I really like as well. I was looking at DK and Travion earlier today. Something before I forget again, and I don't mean to harp on the Dallas defense's change thing, but I was looking here because we were talking about Saquon in the matchup with them. The last 2 weeks, the Cowboys are way down on production that they've given up to wide receivers and QBs.
I'm pretty sure Dallas just had a bye week, though. Yeah, so like you're only looking at 1 week in a 2-week sample size.
We have to have someone edit that out.
And so what I'll say is, and then the other game, they did, kind of crush him, but it was Geno Smith, man. So like, I just don't think it counts.
Yeah.
So, like,
all right.
Saying that Dallas isn't better, but like, I don't think it makes that big of a difference. They didn't get corners.
Okay.
They didn't get the secondary still sucks.
They got players back in the secondary.
They got torched in the beginning of the year too, though.
Yeah, well, they lost a lot in it during the middle part. Of the year. Their secondary.
Like one of
was
the
at
coolest
its peak
things about
shittiness.
playing the Cowboys is that all of their games are shootouts. We have a 40-37 game, 14-31, 40-40, 37-22, 27-30, 44-22, 24-44, 17-27, and 33-16. So like their worst games this year scored 50 points.
I agree with you. I agree. And I want to just add another point that when your fantasy team scores points against the Cowboys, it feels great because fuck the Cowboys. So just, will I have a Jalen Hurts resentment stack courtesy of this conversation? Yeah, I think I will. Fuck that. I think this is a good. I mean, for people who are tuning in early in the week, this is a process oriented show. You kind of get to see David and I work through this slate. This is not always where we end up, but this is how we start to make some of these decisions about game environments and stacks that we want to play and players that we want to target. So I love the discussion that we have here. And if you've stuck around this far in the show as well, please like the show so we get a little bit of traction. And also do us a favor and drop in the comments which stack you like from the ones that we mentioned. Or let us know who you think is right. Should we play the Eagles this week or not? So if you could if you get anything out of this show, if you could show us a little bit of support and drop a like real quick, we'd appreciate it. And the boss man, James, who does a lot for this community, would appreciate it as well.
Yeah, so
before
we wrap this up, I'm going to build this lineup for you very quickly because I think it's a beauty. Like I said, I built this and I almost never attach myself to early lineups that I build because so much can change. But I built this thing and I'm 100% playing this week. I don't know what it'll be in, but I'm playing it. So let me share my screen.
And you're aware of the Wilson running back chalk for Green Bay, right? Because Jacobs is probably not going to play. He didn't practice today.
I was not aware, but I don't think that matters really in any way. Let me show you this real quick.
It's going to be a crucial decision point on the slate, so it is going to matter.
I'm saying that it's a yellow matchup.
Wilson,
I told you, I'm kind of okay playing these and really, you can't see it, but it's a yellow matchup. I'm kind of okay playing that in decent situations. I think that game sucks though. I don't think Minnesota will score any points really. I just think that game environment's bad. Really, if I was going to play anything there, I low-key Jordan Addison.
Okay. All right, show us what you're thinking here.
Yeah, so we could do...
And let's talk through the thought process, too, for people.
Yep, so we're going to start it with the most obvious plays on the slate.
Okay.
Which are Brissett and McBride, because we're doing a lot of things that are weird that I think that we could just play this and forget it.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to play Travion Henderson, who we said was the best play on the slate.
Yeah.
We are going to do a secondary stack of DK Metcalf with Roma Dunze. We also have Derrick Henry with Isaiah Williams. Our little flat 3K player here. Mm-hmm. And then that leaves us a spot for Devonta Smith at 5,600 and a defense. And so we can't quite get up to the Ravens here. But I think that we've got some actually I think Green Bay's a really nice defense here. I think that Cleveland against the Raiders is pretty decent. I think Atlanta and New Orleans, I think all of these are fine. But so the only really pivot point here would be a Dunze. You don't need a Dunze because we already have a secondary stack. And so if we really wanted to, we could knock a Dunze down a little bit to Jameson Williams, Jordan Addison we talked about, Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
So we could just do a little Alec Pierce swap here. Get to Baltimore. But I just think there's not a lot of times when you can fit all of your favorite plays into a lineup. It actually just works.
And you don't have to take a player besides a defense that's on.
You can also play two Williams. But yeah,
could we add three?
So like I said, I don't think I have a lot of things I have to talk through here because we kind of covered it all. It's the lineup really is just all the stuff that I talked about. But I do want to show you that with this 3K receiver that we talked about from the Jets, just look at what you can do with this balanced build like this. Like, there's not a single play here outside of the 3K player that I feel like is like truly a risky proposition. Like, everything feels like pretty high floor, pretty easy to win. Like, so like I think for like a lower entry, single entry, that like taking that one 3K player, if it like means that you can build everything else out really well, I just really like the idea of that build.
I do too, and by not having a cheap running back or having 4100 Yoshivas, you're also creating a different build path too. Um,
Yeah, so
I think
I don't feel like it's quite starts.
if you go Wilson, if you go Wilson and Yoshivas, you're going to have just a different build path than going Henry Henderson at running back. You just went too mid priced. So, but what I'm saying is people are going to have Wilson, they're going to have Bijan, they're going to have Yoshivas, they're going to have top tier wide receiver. So David has a different construction with a ton of players here with big ceilings. I think this lineup is awesome. Just don't dupe David.
Or if you do, at least put it in a different contest. I will say also, I think this range right here is just really good. By the way, like I think a lot of people are going to play Mooney probably, even though that went really terribly
Oh God,
time.
Dude.
So like Xavier Worthy is like it's just a really good like piece of that that's like kind of away from that.
Yep.
And then also just to show something else, just to be like a little different, like you could do this. Like if you don't like Isaiah Williams, like you can still do like Mac Hollins and
Shaheed.
yeah, I mean Josh Downs is here. Yeah, I mean you could put him back in here now. It really wouldn't matter because no one's gonna play Mac Hollins.
You could also take your defense down from Ravens.
Yeah,
if
like
you
that's
wanted
probably
to.
what I would
Yeah.
honestly do. It's like you don't need the Ravens defense. It's like it's a cool secondary correlation, but like it really doesn't matter in any way.
Well, I think you're gaining leverage too with how popular Yoshivas is going to be by playing Hollins at 4200. Now you're not changing the build path, but you're getting direct leverage against Yoshivas there, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I mean just to do like a slight different build here, we'll do this, right? Just to kind of like talk through kind of what this looks like. Just like some different stuff to play around with when you do these. So like we can do T Higgins with Travis Etienne.
Yeah. So, I wanted to talk about ETN and what's the guy? Bhutan? Tootin. So I have a little bit of concern. I mean, I think the Jacksonville running attack, like ETN is priced really well at 5,600. Both of them are on the injury report. I would really like one of them to be out, so I'm not worried about them vulturing from the other because it's really become a timeshare there. I mean, I think it's hard to anticipate who's going to get more work. Something that people might not have noticed is that Tootin went out injured in the Jacksonville Chargers game and didn't play as much in the second half. So ETN was getting more work. So if you look at the box score, you would assume that ETN was the feature back, but Tootin was getting a lot of work during the first half and he might be the lead back now in Jacksonville.
I disagree. So like if you actually look over the last 3 weeks, which like I said, I like to do everything in a 3-week sample size. ETN played 60% of all the snaps. Tootin played 30. ETN got 49% of the attempts. Tootin got 24. ETN got 23 red zone attempts. Tootin got 12. So like I think they're definitely both going to play because also if we look at the other side of it, ETN's also been really efficient. I mean like he's averaging 4 yards a carry. He has 215 rushing yards in this time, 3 rushing touchdowns. All 3 of those happen in the red zone, and so like I actually prefer both of them to play because I don't think anybody will play ETN then. I'm okay either way, honestly. But like I think ETN is, I think it's a 1A, 1B situation where they're both good and they're both going to play. But like at ETN's price, as long as he stays under 6K, I think it's like totally fine to like keep playing him. But like if he like blows up and he's all of a sudden like 6,200, like I'll never touch him ever again.
Yeah, I would.
He also has 15
I would prefer
targets in the last 2 weeks. By the way, I forgot to mention ETN.
ETN does.
Yeah, or Yeah, so like that was something else I picked up earlier. Is like he's getting a lot of targets as well. He's averaging like 4 to 5 targets a game. Um, so yeah, like I said, I think ETN is like he's a weapon, right? It's like if you look at Liam Cohen, it's like I think ETN's Bucky Irving and Tootin is Rashad White. Cohen like still played two running backs last year, but they had a 1A and 1B. I
Hmm.
think they probably let ETN go next year. He's a free agent. Like Tootin just like takes that
Yeah.
spot. But like I think that it's still a spot where ETN is the 1A running back, and most people won't play him if Tootin plays, which would let our Arizona stack actually be a little bit different.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of people are going to put Wilson. I think a lot of people are going to play Wilson. So by going to ETN, you're getting leverage off that as well, and you're correlating with. So yeah, I guess the uncertainty would reduce ownership, but you would be accepting some uncertainty around the running back position. But David's making a case for ETN. I'm a little bit concerned about his role, but we'll get more clarity as the week goes on. And when you play DFS, we're looking for ceiling and accepting risk. So
Yeah, I mean, I think though, even if you just take a look at it, it's like last week he had 19 attempts and 2 targets. Week before, 16 attempts and 4 targets. Week before, 22 attempts and 5 targets. And then it was a little lower between this time, but like it was a 35-7 loss. 8 attempts, 3 targets when they got blown up by 25 points. 20-12, 12 attempts, 5 targets. I mean, like at a 5,900 player, we're like pretty consistently seeing him get between like 16 to all the way up to 28 touches.
yeah,
Like that's
and the
really
matchup's
insane
great.
for a sub 6K player.
And the matchup's great.
Yeah, like and so like I said, it's like I'm not saying he's gonna be the guy that gets all the carries and stuff. I don't think he will, but like find me another sub 6K player that's seen 28 touches in the last 3 weeks.
The other angle that we could take too, and I want to look at the pressure rates for Jacksonville and the offensive line for the Cardinals. But if Jacoby Brissett is going to be under a lot of duress, and you're not playing an Arizona stack, could it be interesting to play ETN correlated with the Jacksonville defense. The reason I mention that is defenses aren't, it's hard to predict those things, but the reason that that might be neat is you could get leverage if Brissett's going to be chalk again. So let's say that stack underperforms, and Brissett has a lot of turnovers, at least recently. Now you have additional leverage against all the people that play Brissett, so that could be cool too.
Yeah, I mean it is price also. Like we have a couple players now that are like definitely cheaper, and so like something I'll say like this is just something I was looking at. I'm not like in love with it, but I think it's okay. Is like I think you could just play the other side.
Play Jacksonville.
Yeah, like Trevor Lawrence with Parker Washington. Like Parker Washington has been like a legit wide receiver one with Brian Thomas out, even with Jacoby Myers in the fold. I think Parker
Mm-hmm.
Washington's like a really like actually decent play. It's not a good matchup really, but like he's 5,200 and he's I guess last week he only had 2 targets, but the week 2 weeks before that they won 35-6. But the 3 weeks before that he's had 7, 9, and 10. So like I think like Parker Washington, Trevor Lawrence, like Jacksonville's weird. I don't think they're super good, but like they can consistently find ways to score points. So like this isn't like it's more of a trail bet than like a spot that I like. Like I don't feel like it's that good of a spot, but like if you think that Arizona's going to score points, then like it's probably a decent shot that Jacksonville is also going to score some points. And I even think that it could be the week early for Jacoby Myers. 3 weeks in, he's had some time and everything. Brian Thomas misses again. He's pretty cheap. He's gone down. It's like Jacoby Myers like might be okay like a week early just to like throw in there. Like I said, it's not like a die on the hill spot. I don't know if I'll play it. I'm not recommending to play it, but I think it's an interesting way to look at it.
I'm interested. I think it's something I'll consider too as the week goes on. I'd like to shout out famous Jameis, and the Giants stacks against Detroit. Um, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to play this, but a game total where you have 52 points on an indoor field in Detroit. They're going to likely be in a trailing game state with a secondary in the Lions who have a lot of injuries, and when they played, they've given up some points to quarterbacks and wide receivers. I think there's a chance that could be the Jacoby Brissett Cardinals stack of this week.
I'm most certainly
Now,
not playing Winston, but I think Wan'Dale Robinson's one of the best plays on the slate.
well, and Wandell, like for his targets and expected fantasy points, underperformed last week and at ownership. So I think a lot of people are not going to be on him, and I do like pairing him and Theo Johnson with Jameis in that stack.
Okay, let me ask you a funny question. In the last 3 weeks, where does Wan'Dale Robinson rank in targets in the league?
Top 10, top 5. I mean, he had 9 last week, 11 the week before. His long, yeah.
He's tied for fourth.
Number 1, 4th,
and it's only by 5 less. Nico Collins is in first with 36. Trey McBride and Ross St. Brown are tied for second at 33, and then Wan'Dale Robinson and Drake London are tied for third with 31. And so, like, Wan'Dale Robinson is, like, I really liked him last week. That was the other fade, by the way. I just remembered I played 0 Jameis Winston last week. But Jameis, so, like, Wan'Dale Robinson, because he, like, kind of sucked last week. I mean, his air yard, he doesn't get any air yards, right? That's, like, kind of the thing. But, like, with Winston, we kind of assume that he'll throw it downfield more often because he's a psychopath.
Yeah.
And so, like, I kind of think that Winston can unlock Wan'Dale Robinson, even if he's not, like, the ideal quarterback. And so, like, I think Robinson's, like, a really interesting play.
Yeah, I mean, his longest target, actually, Robinson was 20 yards, and his longest in week 10 was 15. So he's had some deeper targets. I know a lot of his stuff is around the line of scrimmage. I get that, too.
I mean, he has 180 air yards in the last 3 weeks, which is, like, for where the kind of receivers we're talking about, it's terrible. That's the same amount of, that's less air yards than Dalton Schultz. But it's not, like, that bad on the grand scheme of things. It's like you could have plenty of big games at that, but, like, I do just think it's funny that, like, I mean, I'll tell you, a player that people love to play that has the same role is Emeka Egbuka, who has 176 air yards in the same amount of time. Puka Nacua, who has 168 air yards in the same amount of time. And so, like, players can...
Maybe you've heard of Puka Nacua.
Yeah, so, like, players can have big games at that point, I think. It's just, like, it's got to be the right, like, game script and the game environment and everything else. And so, like...
and the volume,
just,
and
like
the
volume's
there.
There's a lot to be said with the middle tier of players this week, where I think that we have a lot of upside in the mid-tier that we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that wraps up everything I have to say. Do you have any last thoughts or words that you'd like to throw out?
No. I think the Giants are going to be my puke stack of the week. I think we share a lot of same thoughts this week. I know we debated a few points, but I think we're pretty aligned. We had some similar ideas, so should be a fun week. I like it. I'm going to figure out how much exposure I'm going to have to some of the chalk as we'll have a better idea what it is. I think Yoshivas and Wilson are going to be pretty chalky, so I'll have some decisions on how to incorporate them in lineups. But yeah, it'll be a fun week.
You know, something I actually want to see just really quickly. Without Jamar Chase, just something I wanted to bring up that I don't think anyone's going to talk about.
Higgins?
Noah Fant.
Yoshivas? Oh, okay.
So, in the last couple of weeks, when we looked at that, Jamar Chase is at 18 targets, T. Higgins had 17, Yoshi's had 11, and Noah Fant's had 9. And so, like, if we just, like, exfoliate that a little bit with Jamar Chase out, I think that, like, we could actually see Noah Fant have, like, a good amount of targets, and, like, no one's going to play him. So, like, I think as, like, a cheap tight end, it's kind of like an interesting pivot on Yoshi.
And do you know why I would like Fant too?
No.
You get leverage off Yoshivas if you're going to play him as a one-off.
Yeah, that's Yoshi. That's what I meant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
like, I think that's just, like, a really interesting... Like, we've seen Noah Fant have some pretty good games. I mean, like, I'm not talking about, like, huge games, right? Because, like, he's, like, a 3K tight end. But we have seen him... let me see here. He is 3,100 and he's had 8 fantasy points, 10 fantasy points, 7, 14, 7, 7, 6, and 13 with Jamar Chase. So like, I just think that's like kind of an interesting, and they also have a good matchup for tight end this week. So like, I think
Yeah, it's
that's
just
like a really interesting
I have the
pivot.
fantasy points against in the background here. I was looking at tight ends. It's a good spot for it.
Yeah, so like I think that's like just a really interesting pivot point, and that's what I'll end with is that I think that you could decide not to play Yoshi and play Noah Fant and actually end up in like a really good spot.
Yeah, I like that too.
Cool. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Thanks for talking football with me tonight, Ryan. Good luck on your week 12, right?
Yeah,
Said that
12.
earlier. Week 12 lineups, and we'll see you next week.
See you, everybody. Thanks.